artist. Today I'm going to go ahead and show you how to marker bleed. So I'm going to go ahead and marker bleed these bubble letters that I've been working on, but you can bubble or marker bleed other things as well. So in order to marker bleed, you're going to need a drawing that you've traced in Sharpie. You're going to need to get regular markers. These are water soluble markers, meaning that they wash off a little bit. This is what's going to make it bleed. And then this year they're all taped together so that you can have one pack to borrow. Please be gentle with these so that try not to get this tape unstuck or anything. And then another thing is, if one of your colors isn't working, then please go ahead and put it in the dead marker bin and then maybe let me know, and that way I will just pop a new marker in. So the lid will always stay and I could just pop a new marker in. All right, other things that you will need are, you will need a paintbrush. I chose a bigger paintbrush, but if you want to use a smaller paintbrush for marker bleeding, you can. Now those are things for everybody if you are marker bleeding. However, you're also going to need a small dish of water that hopefully I'll already have a dish ready for you. And of course, a painter's towel. Now, although we're not sharing supplies this year, you can share the water and the painter's towel because you're not really going to touch it. Only the person that got it, and that could be me, really has touched it. That same person who got those items out is going to be the person that cleans them up. So I'm going to go ahead and marker bleed this. To do this, the darker colors work better. Now these are all the colors that we have. And you might notice there's no like pink or something like that. You might want to bring those if you have them. So again, the darker colors work best. I'm going to go ahead and take a blue. There we go. And then trace all your Sharpie lines. Take your time. Again, sloppiness happens if you rush, right? There is no rush because you don't even have to finish today if you don't. You can marker bleed the background to whatever you're doing as well. All right. So I've traced everything. We even traced the inside part of the A. Before I do any marker bleeding, I want to make sure my marker is snapped back in there. Did you hear that snap? That means it's good to go. And I could change colors for the rest of the letters. I can even do a different color on the outside, so I'm going to do that just for fun. I like the way the orange always looks kind of cool in marker bleed. It's kind of hard to pull them out with this method, but I think you guys can do it just fine. So make sure I don't go right on the blue, because if you put blue or on top of orange or vice versa, you get brown. And it's not a very pretty brown either. It's sort of blah. Okay. So again, I'm going to go ahead and snap that back in. Make sure you hear it. Oh golly, I can't hear this one. Got it. Okay, so now let me go ahead, get my water ready. That you can just leave the water in the center of your table so that everybody that needs it can reach, unless you're the only one using it. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and you'll need to dip your paintbrush in, wipe it on the lip so it doesn't drip. And I don't want to be messy with it. I want to go along the lines that I made. Even if it's back and forth, no problem. But can you see that it's starting to color in? I really like this method because I think it makes everything look really interesting. It adds color, which is an important element of art, into your shapes, another element of art. And if you don't have paint at home, you might have markers. All right, now before I go ahead to the orange, you could already see it's bleeding a little bit there. I want to make sure I swoosh, wipe, and blot on the towel. And again, those things you can share because they're not things that we're going to touch. This year, the year of the COVID, caring is not sharing. Oops, I think I said that reversed. No, I said right. All right. See the orange? It's not very, it shouldn't be a ton, but geez Louise, this looks great. I'm really happy with my artwork. So if you're happy with your artwork, then keep adding more details. Now, one thing that you can't do is on wet marker, you can't, like I can't be like, ooh, I want more color, and then add more color right onto here. It'll ruin these markers, and it'll ruin Sharpies too. So if you want to add, like, for instance, pretend I want to go back and add polka dots in the A. Well, you just need to wait till that dries. So maybe in the next art class would be better. All right, so you can do that the entire way. Geez Louise, this artwork didn't start off that great, but now it is. So I'm going to show you a couple other examples that I used to marker bleed. So I used this castle is also marker bled. So in this case, I went ahead and used a ruler or a straight edge, and I created my castle very slowly, thinking of lots of different details. And then again, I went very slowly to trace everything, and then eventually marker bled. I'm going to show you one more example. This one has no Sharpie outline. It's just the marker, which means you have to be a little bit slower with your bleeding. And then this one's similar. It's a different building, but I did a cathedral, a big church, and I even used a CD with colored Sharpie, which I can show you at a different time. But again, I went really slowly, adding lots of details with Sharpie. I haven't finished it, you can see. And then another thing I really think is nice about this picture is that I went around this edge of the paper to bleed the sky. Because you don't forget all parts of your paper are part of your artwork, all right? It's not just the center. The whole paper is your artwork. So make sure that you're making the whole paper interesting. Okay, so that is all for marker bleeding. Happy arting!